Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm the second affirmative speaker, and I will be backing up my partner's significance, inherency, and solvency claims, sorry, and refuting some of the claims that the negative made. So our significance claim is that the U.S. spends billions of dollars to provide aid in the Middle East. And so our opponent said that Africa receives the most aid, when in fact it is Israel, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Egypt, Jordan, and Jordan that receive the most aid from us. Those are the top countries, and that's from ABC News. Also, on the point of Israel, our aid, it isn't, sorry, we're spending a lot of money there when we don't necessarily need to and when it doesn't directly benefit us. America's allies in the Middle East have tended to take the U.S. support for granted and ignore the U.S. concerns whenever it suited them. Thus, Israel has continued to build settlements despite repeated but impotent U.S. protests. And that comes from the Washington Post. And then from the Huffington Post, the Israeli GDP is about $250 billion per year, and its per capita income is about $33,000 per year. So this shows that Israel isn't really dependent on our aid. They're doing fairly well on their own. And finally, the United Nations classifies Israel as having very high human development. It ranks 16th among 186 nations, and that comes from Inter-Hemispheric Resource Center Press. Okay. Another place that we spend a lot of money on aid is Afghanistan, which has yet to stabilize and may not stabilize in the future. From 1946 to 2010, Afghanistan has received $27 billion in military aid and $22 billion in economic aid, totaling $49 billion. That comes from the Huffington Post. And the U.S. is committed to the continued support of Afghanistan. And this comes from the State Department website. The United States has made a long-term commitment to help Afghanistan build a secure state with a democratic government that respects human rights. Through the Tokyo Mutual Accountability Framework, the United States and other international donors committed to providing Afghanistan $16 billion in aid through 2015 and continuing assistance at levels commensurate with the last decade through 2017. Afghanistan is also a very unstable area, and other major powers that have gone in have not been able to stabilize it in the past. From CNN, 25 years ago this month, the last Soviet soldier marched out of Afghanistan, bringing an end to a 9-year occupation that cost the lives of 15,000 Soviet troops and more than 1 million Afghans. And from the BBC, major world powers such as Britain and the Soviet Union and the US have tried to stabilize the area and have always failed. So this shows that our attempts are most likely futile and that the area will not stabilize just by throwing money at it. To strengthen my partner's inherency claim that providing aid to the Middle East isn't in our best interest. From the book The Middle East, both the United States and Saudi Arabia believed that it was in their best interest to encourage and subsidize the essentially militant Islamic resistance to the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan during the 1980s. So thousands of guerrilla fighters were trained in that conflict and at least implicitly encouraged to believe that once Soviet power in Afghanistan had been neutralized, it was legitimate to look to a wider mission, which eventually led to blowback in the form of 9/11. And from the same book, violent anti-American demonstrations have taken place in Kabul, apparently sparked by the large-scale killing of civilians by American airstrikes. So this shows that by trying to provide aid to the Middle East, we're actually only harming ourselves. And from the Huffington Post, the revolutions of 2011 that are called by many the Arab Spring uprisings gave way to anti-American protests and fatalities. So they obviously don't want us there, and we're spending a lot of money trying to stabilize an area that isn't likely to stabilize. And U.S. military action in the Middle East does not promote security. From the same book, The Middle East, what the Middle East needs is reconstruction, not pure military force. In order to stabilize the area, this can only happen when the area is secure, which isn't happening due to our military actions. The book cites airstrikes in Shindad and Sarwan Kala, which killed many civilians as results of our actions. And Bush believed that he was engaged in a global war on terror, but in fact the people his troops were fighting and killing were tribesmen just seeking to defend their families and ancestral lands. And the people of Afghanistan have a history of being very against people coming into their country. To back up our solvency claim that the United States should reform other aid programs instead of providing a third of its budget to the Middle East, there are many things happening around the world, such as natural disasters, such as the ones that happened in Japan, in the Philippines. And so we should be providing more aid to those countries when they need it. Okay, thank you.